It's not
this is the
physically possible.
main thing that I think we're both getting at, is that it's all about accepting your life right now. And sometimes you need to really see that even though you're spiritually advanced, right? Like people who are spiritually aware, they can go right to this acceptance in their mind, but there's something in them that still feels like, I don't want to be on this planet even. Like I don't want to ground myself in my root chakra. I don't want to be on this planet. Why did I choose this life? It's so hard. And I know personally, I went through this for a long time where I've had an awareness that I'm an older soul. And so I thought, well, as an older soul, I think I should have done a better job choosing my childhood because I had that awareness that we choose our life, right? So I thought, well, why did I do that? If I've been around the block so many times, why would I choose such a difficult path for myself? And then through doing this and understanding that what our soul's journey really is, it really was revealed to me that the older the soul, the more challenge you want on this life. Like say you do have some karmic patterns that are from maybe several hundred lifetimes ago that you're like, hey, you know what? I'm ready to take them on now because I have the skills and the spiritual support to do this. So you'll choose maybe a more difficult path as an older soul. It's kind of like, if you're in kindergarten, you're not going to take on a doctoral thesis. So the older souls tend to take on more challenging paths. And I'm curious to hear your experience with this. But in my experience, that's what happens. And yet there's this spiritually advanced you can be in your mind,
Well,
always going to the idea, well, I know there's a higher purpose for this. I know there's a reason that I'm doing this, but there could be a part of you that feels like a victim. And I think that's quite natural. Like, even if you're spiritually advanced, or maybe especially if you are, because you're sublimating a lot of your feelings. So I think that's when it becomes really powerful to say, that's why a lot of times the karma or the past life is revealed, is why you chose your circumstances now. There's a relief and a release and a healing that takes place when people understand, you know what, I didn't make a bad choice. I can see why my soul chose this. Now I can be in this body now. Now I can accept my life as it is and be empowered with it. And ultimately it's about, and you can bypass all of that even by saying, you know what, I am not a victim and I'm going to choose to embrace whatever this is and know that there's a higher purpose for it, not just in your mind, but in your whole body, all 12 chakras. do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I have had the experience that a lot of people who were into spiritual things in past lives have difficulty grounding into their root chakra. That's definitely true. I can't say that I think or believe that older souls have a harder karma. I think that, well, every person on the planet or everyone I've ever read thinks that their life isn't particularly easy. And from my experience, the people that say their life is easy, they're lying because they don't really. I do understand what you mean though. And I do think that people that are, well, not even older souls, you see, because some people have 3 incarnations and they really get it and they're an old soul after 3. And I've read some people that have had like 300 incarnations and they still don't really get it and they're not yet an old soul.
I understand what you mean, yeah.
So,
but I'm saying they can
always
have a more difficult. You can choose to have a really blessed life so that you can help more people more quickly or whatever.
I think that's it.
But oftentimes.
Well, I don't know about that, but what I do know to be true from what you've said is that people that have had more spiritual past lives, whatever that means, in their past lives, they feel that they have a mission. They feel that they have a life purpose. These are people that come in semi-awakened so that they can quickly move up into their higher chakras and discover their life purpose and live it. And those people do have a more difficult karma in some ways because there's that drive and that push and that urge to change and transform. And as much as we want to change and transform, we know that changing and transforming also means dealing with our stuff more rapidly. So the people that, you know, often feel, I just got so much on, or I've got so much to do, are generally the ones that just have that feeling, I've come here with a purpose. And if I don't live my purpose, my life's not really worth it. And those people do have a more difficult karma because they've got this internal push to change and evolve and grow and change and evolve and grow. And I'm one of those people, and so are you. So that can be difficult to manage at times. When we can accept it, then life becomes much easier. But that constant push to transform and go higher and go higher and go higher, that can be difficult to ground with as well, because we have to make sure that the root chakra is balanced. And to get back to what you said about the root chakra, a lot of people that were very open spiritually in past lives and also were persecuted for it do have that fear around grounding into the root chakra. So that's really the key. They need to learn to ground in the root chakra, and they need to be in the here and now, and then they can live their spiritual purpose while on earth, because it's all about creating heaven on earth. There's no point, is there, being open them in the higher chakras. You can't do anything with that.
Yeah, and you must be psychic, because I was just going to ask you to talk more about the root chakra, because I know personally that has been my greatest challenge, is grounding in my body, being in my body. There's a part of me that is always floating up to the other side, and I feel very comfortable there. And I love having a body, and I love the body that I'm in. But I know most of my early life, especially, I wasn't really in it. And I found this to be with a lot of people, no matter what level of incarnation, but that if they've experienced trauma, they're pretty much beside themselves or outside themselves and have that trouble grounding. So can you talk a little bit more about that in your experience, and how people can be aware of this and how they can help themselves?
I think the people that struggle with it most are not only people that have experienced trauma, they're also people that have experienced trauma and also have higher open chakras. So yes, we can be out of our body when we've experienced trauma, but the people that generally suffer from it more, like yourself and myself growing up, for example, not only did we have trauma, which took us out of our bodies, we also had our higher chakras were open. So our energy wasn't grounded into the lower chakra. It's like having a double whammy. And for those people, it's really challenging. It's really challenging to get them back into their lower body. My saving grace, I think, has always been my very down-to-earth personality, and also my big toes. Like, I am a little person with little hands, but I've got huge big toes. They're like hobbit feet toes. Yeah. And I think that those toes and my Sagittarian nature has kept me grounded. But like you, Kari, I had to do so much work on chakras 1, 2, and 3, like root chakra and working chakra 2, and then working chakra 3. And, you know, when I do my chakra cleanse, and like you, I do it every day, it's always those chakras. I barely touch chakra 6, and it's probably the same for you, because if I touch that, it's just too much energy. And I don't work on my higher chakras, because I incarnated with my higher chakras, so 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, and 7, and 6 being completely open. But I came in with the lower chakras being completely closed. And luckily for me, I was grounded and did have a healthy grasp on reality. Like, I'm thankful for that. That was my personality. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have become paranoid schizophrenic, or I would have become a complete loony. It was just way too much energy to have in my higher chakras.
Yeah. So how would you suggest anyone listening does this, ground themselves and make sure they're really grounded and rooted in their bodies?
Well, you and I would both say they have to work on their chakras, because when you start working on your chakras, you ground into chakra 1. For a lot of people, that will be difficult for some months. I mean, in the school, when people come into my school, we spend 2 weeks on each one of the chakras, and it's absolutely amazing how many people, even people that have been doing spiritual work for a long time, just cannot connect to their root chakra. They just cannot feel it. So it would definitely be working on your chakras and really grounding in the root chakra, and working with chakra 2 and 3 and working with the rest of your chakras to balance it out. But also grounding techniques, and I'm sure you advocate these as well. Walking in nature, feeling your feet, visualizing that the chi, the pranas coming up from the earth into your body, being in your body. All of Eckhart Tolle's presence practicing techniques are about grounding. And of course, physical exercise, wearing the color red. I mean, in the school, we talk about raw dancing. So one of the ways we love to really ignite our chakra 1 and get the root chakra happy and healthy is we put on music, tribal dancing music or drum music, and we just let it happen, and we really, pulsate and gyrate away and feel our body. So it's about being in the body. And for most people that are not in their body, it's very hard at the beginning to create that connection. But once they do, then it becomes very easy to create the connection. And people that are out of their body are very tired. Chronic fatigue syndrome, as far as I'm concerned, through my medical intuitive gaze lens, is just simply disconnection from chakra 1. And when I work with clients and I see they have chronic fatigue and they tell me their diagnoses, I say, well, let's not worry about the diagnoses. Let's just get you connected to your root chakra.
Yes.
And they do that. And then they're full of energy and like, oh my God, I have energy and I'm grounded. I'm in my body. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I am not medical intuitive like the way you are at all. However, I have found with my clients but I read energy as well. In a different way. And I found with my clients who are empaths are the ones that are most susceptible to chronic fatigue. And a lot of times it's because they're not in their body. They're constantly reading the energy of other people's bodies. And so they're it's like you don't even know who you are anymore because empaths are always reading everybody else, right? So it's like there's this constant projecting of your energy around your world to make sure you're safe, when actually the safest place is in your body.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Right? So it takes some retraining for people. And I have noticed too, you talk about raw dancing, and I love raw dancing. And I actually did African dance through my 20s to help me. It just felt really good. And it also helped ground me. But I have noticed that let's say you go to the gym and you see people on the treadmill or whatever, and they're working out,
but they're
all
not
their energy
there.
is still in their head, right?
Yeah.
They're not really in their bodies. Their energy's in their heads the whole time, and you're not really serving your body. You're just being vain,
right?
You know what I'm talking about? So
it's moving
like the
forward.
real grounding when you're doing exercises, if you're actually bringing your awareness through your feet into the bottom of your body, into your whole body while you're exercising, not just being in your head. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Kari. And when I go to gyms, when we're traveling and I want to, do my run, I look at people and I think, you are just exercising the body and you're totally not there. They're absorbed with the television or they're reading, and it's weird because how joyful I know, how joyful is it to feel like your feet pounding on the treadmill and your body warming up. I mean, it may sound gross to some people, but I even love feeling the sweat drip down my face. I'm alive.
Well, you're alive. I mean, if you didn't need a body, you wouldn't have chosen to be in a body. You'd still be on the other side. And so I really want to emphasize that just exercise alone is not going to get you grounded in your body. It's really bringing those roots through into the earth and into physically being in your body, experiencing it while you're doing exercise.
So we're always,
and while you're in nature, and while you're doing pottery or whatever, is to feel what it's like to be in your body while you're doing that kind of thing. And that reminds you that you're you. You're here, you chose this. I'm curious what you have to say about the empath thing, how you experience that, because that's how I see it when I experience it in clients, that they're really projecting their energy constantly outward. So is that something that you've experienced?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with that. Empaths have very weak lower chakras, particularly chakra three.
Yes.
Chakra three is
Mm-hmm.
our solar plexus, and it's the
Yes.
bodyguard of our energy field. And that's how we really stay anchored into our energy. And empaths have no self reference point energetically. So they don't stay in their own energy. Exactly what you said, Kari. And with
Yeah.
empaths, when I work with them,
Yes,
I help
please.
them,
Please, please,
work
please.
on their lower three chakras, particularly the solar plexus, because empaths not only know what everyone else is feeling, sometimes they're
Mm-hmm.
projecting what they think someone else is feeling and don't really know, but they don't have a sense of who they are or what they want. And that's also the byproduct of having a weak chakra three. It's very difficult to get along with people if they have a weak chakra three. It's very difficult to get along with people who don't know who they are or what they want. And people like that are also prone to passive aggressivity. I mean, try having an open and honest discussion with someone who's passive aggressive. You just don't get
Yeah.
anywhere, you know?
Yeah, because you're constantly trying to please people because you don't. And here's the thing about chakra three. And when you talked about this, my whole energy lit up because this is my 100% belief. And I'm from that old school. I started out with that, because you and I both started doing this
Yeah.
about 20 years ago. We were different ages, as we mentioned before, but like it was before Harry Potter, right? It was
It's
before
been
the
a while,
internet.
and it was way before it was cool to be psychic.
Yeah,
Being
way
psychic.
Yeah,
before.
and
Yeah,
people feel
yeah,
so
being
guilty.
psychic was my
So
deep dark
guilty.
secret for half of my
Oh,
career. Half of my career as a medical intuitive, no one knew what
Oh,
I
please
did.
talk about this.
yeah, because exactly. And you know, before we came out of the broom closet. So and yeah, and so we were doing this before the internet and before J.K. Rowling got popular, right? So back then, if you went into like the new age bookstores or whatever and read the books about psychic protection, it was all about putting yourself in bubbles and shielding yourself and having these mirrors outside of your bubbles.
Oh,
Now,
it's
yes,
so
I do believe
awful.
a strong aura it's like our ozone layer. You need it, but it's not impenetrable. So what happens was most people live in this fear bubble. Then you're in your own little fear bubble about picking up negativity from the outside world. When it's really, if you are the most radiant person, if you have this radiant happiness or this radiant knowing of what your personal boundaries are, which is a third chakra thing, correct? You can talk more about it, but it's about more being a brighter energy, so their negativity doesn't affect you because you're radiant, not you're trapped in your own little fear bubble. Because from what I've
Well,
learned and read and heard from you, that is a lot of your philosophy as well.
mm,
Am I interpreting you correctly
yeah,
too?
that's absolutely right. And it came from me being not only born psychic and a medium, I was also born an empath. So I was just picking up everyone's stuff all over the place. And, people would actually say to me, I really like sitting with you. I really like just talking to you. Why? Because they'd leave and they'd leave it all with me. Now, I didn't know any of this when I was a kid. I had no idea. I was just didn't know any of it. But there were numerous times in my work as a medical intuitive where I thought, I can't take this. I emotionally can't take it. And then I understood I had an experience and then understood that I had a weak solar plexus chakra and started working on anchoring. And that was really the foundational experiences that I had before. This was in 2007, before I went on to build my school and teach people these things. So my philosophy is this: don't do protecting and don't do this silly open and closing chakra thing. Like, that is just the weirdest philosophy around. And people still talk about that. And I can't get my head around it. Now, no criticism to people that talk about it and do it. It doesn't make any sense to me, Kari. Because why would you ever want your chakras closed? Why would you ever want them to have to close them because they're too open? None of that makes sense. What you want is all of your chakras happy, healthy, and rocking fit. Because if you have a really strong chakra 6, you wouldn't want to close it. Like, people say you do your psychic readings, you open your chakra 6 and you close it. But that's silly, because that means that your chakra 6 is actually not being balanced out by your lower 5 chakras. You want to always have your chakra 6 open, but you want your 5 lower chakras as equally as strong. It's about creating energetic harmony and being luminous and radiant, that you're so luminous and so open and so loving that negativity can't even come anywhere near you. So
exactly,
you don't worry about shielding
Mm-hmm.
and protecting. It's fear-based. And opening and closing chakras, I don't get it. I don't advocate it. And I just don't think it's necessary.
well, it's like the ozone shutting down for a little bit, or whatever. It's like the Earth's
Yeah.
protective shield deciding to go to sleep. And that is why it's so important, especially for empaths, to cleanse and balance their chakras. And it's so important because your energy would be more spongy and absorbent, and people say, hey, you're a healer, I want to give this to you, and then you have so much of other people's energy in your energy that you don't want to be around people anymore. And the whole joy of being an empath and being so emotionally sensitive is to interact with people on a very deep level. So you're really depriving yourself of your greatest joy. And that, and this affects people's money, and that it affects, I love how we've gone from past lives to this, but it's so.
Well, empaths end up becoming hermits, and they get bitter. And I completely understand that, because that was me for so many years. The only way I could survive was by retreating. I could never ever go to concerts with lots of people or loud music, and I still don't go out to clubs, and I don't drink alcohol just because it doesn't turn me on. It doesn't do it for me. But now I can walk into a room and know that the vibe isn't so great, but it's not going to affect me. Where before I'd walk into a room, all bad vibe, I can't handle it, because I didn't have a strong and resilient energy field. So empaths have just got to work on their chakras. And instead of closing down chakra 6, see, empaths, what they have is they have a really open chakra 6, but they have really small lower chakras. So a lot of people say, well, just close down your chakra 6. But if they close down their chakra 6, they're closing off their own intuition. Why would
That's so sad.
It is sad. Why would you want to stop having your own internal guidance system, your intuition? What really needs to happen is they need to build up the strength in the lower chakras to handle the beautiful radiance and the gifts of chakra 6. Empaths are very gifted, but they're drawn to the healing arts. But they, they become nurses and they become healers and they become doctors, but they get burnt out really quickly. And balancing that can be challenging if you don't work with your energy field.